Hello, this is Miss Schrader. Today we're going to be talking about the West African Emperor Mansa Musa. My students, you need a piece of paper with which you can take notes. When you're done, you are giving me 5 sentences about what you found interesting, important, educational about Mansa Musa. I want to start by mentioning that most of the pictures you see are done in the modern era. We don't really have anything in the way of pictures of him from his actual time period, and that includes the one you're looking at now. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so here we have a map that is showing Africa and showing where Mali, the land of Mansa Musa, was during his time. You can see to the far eastern side, we have Timbuktu and Gao, some of the large cities that he takes control of later on. Mansa Musa and Mali were in control of the salt and gold trade, the salt being brought down by Arab traders from the north through the Sahara Desert. And so this is how Mali and Mansa Musa got to be incredibly rich. The lands that he was controlling include modern-day Guinea, Senegal, Mauritania, and Gambia. His dates are 1280 to 1337. These are not completely accurate dates. In fact, historians disagree and argue, particularly about his exact death date. Mansa Musa is most famous for having gone on his Hajj. He was a Muslim, so he takes his Hajj, his pilgrimage to Mecca, between 1324 and 1325. There are a lot of people, both Arabic and European, who wrote about it. Keep in mind that he himself would not have had a writing system, but by the time of his life, they were using Arabic. According to the stories, he took 60,000 men with him, which included 12,000 slaves, each one carrying a 4-pound block of gold. He had gold coins, which as he traveled, he would throw to the poor. Remember, if you are Islamic, you're supposed to be giving to the poor. So everybody knew about him, and everybody knew he was coming. Now, as I've said, almost all of the pictures we're seeing are modern ones, but I really do like this one because he appears to be tossing a ball of gold in the air. Most historians believe that Mansa Musa was the wealthiest figure in the Middle Ages. He had an enormous amount of gold that he is taking with him when he went on Hajj. And there is a wonderful written story about him eventually arriving and visiting with Mamluk, who was the Sultan of Egypt. And while he was there, he gives away so much gold that it deflates the value of gold because there's so much gold suddenly coming into Egypt that it no longer has as much value. Now, this picture, once again, a modern picture, is showing Mansa Musa in front of, I hope I say this correctly, Djin Gari Bar Mosque in Timbuktu. So as he was traveling on his Hajj, he met an architect who had designed some of the mosques in El Andalus, and he liked them so much that he asked this architect to come back and design a mosque in Timbuktu for him. And this is the one that was designed. And this is Djin Gari Bar Mosque in Timbuktu today. It has been renovated and repaired in the 20th century, but it is still used as a mosque. During the time of Mansa Musa, the city of Timbuktu in the eastern part of Mali became a famous university town. This was a town in which Muslim scholars wanted to go to study various different things. You can see here we have an ancient book in Arabic. After Mansa Musa, after several hundred years, Timbuktu began to fall into disarray. People didn't visit it anymore. And a lot of the manuscripts that existed basically were ignored, lost. And in the modern era, in the 21st century, we have people going in, they are studying these ancient manuscripts, working to save them, and more importantly, working to save the information that is in them. Now, this picture is showing a map of what they think might have been Mansa Musa's route. We know he went through Timbuktu. We know he went up to Cairo, and then he, of course, would have gone down to Mecca. That's where he would be doing his Hajj. Um, Afterwards, as we mentioned, he had a huge effect on the value of gold and the places that he went to, and he became famous. Everybody was talking about Mansa Musa and his travels. This is the most famous picture of Mansa Musa and the one that is known to be closest to the time of his life. This is actually from the Catalan Atlas, done in 1375. He's shown here on the right, holding the piece of gold in his hand. And this is the picture that when most times when they talk about him, that's the picture you see. And here he is shown a little bit closer up. This map made Europeans want to find Mansa Musa. They started going down into Africa, exploring, searching to find him because they wanted to trade with him. And of course, it is a great irony because even by the time this map is done, which of course is not that long after his death, he is deceased. So they're looking for a dead man. Here's a pulled out version of some of the map. You can see him kind of towards the center in the African part. You can just see the top of him there, but I did want you to get a better view of the entire map. So as I've mentioned, we don't know exactly when he died. There are stories that he died within a year of his return from his Hajj, and stories that he lived much longer. He appears to have been followed on his throne by his son Mansa Maghan, and then by his brother later on. He continued to be famous long after his death, as I mentioned, because people kept reading about him and hearing about how rich he was and wanting to find him. Okay, my students, you are writing 5 sentences about what you have learned about Mansa Musa. Thank you.